Hey guys, today we'll be taking a look at every single 2020 presidential election forecast, the Economist, the 538, JHK, and our progress forecast, and how they are currently projecting the 2020 presidential election. Before that, yesterday I just launched my public Discord, so make sure you join that. We're having giveaways and events there very soon. Make sure you don't miss out on all of those. And so the link is at the very top of the description below. So starting off with the Economist forecast, currently they give Joe Biden the West Coast. These are all safe states. New Mexico is a safe state for Joe Biden on this forecast, as well as the states of Illinois, Virginia, New York, state of Vermont, as well as Maine. There's no separate categorization for the districts or the at-large vote, so Maine is just right now solid for Joe Biden, as well as most of the Northeast, something that we'll see in most of these forecasts. And the Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, these states that form the blue wall that Trump was able to win, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in 2016, these have all become likely states for Joe Biden. New Hampshire right now is also a likely state, the state of Nevada as well a likely state, as well as Colorado. For President Trump, Montana is a likely state, but most of these Great Plains states are all solid. For the president, Kansas and Missouri, surprisingly, are likely states, as well as Louisiana and Mississippi. All 5 of these likely states so far, all states Trump won by solid margins in 2016. They project that Oklahoma, Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Indiana, all solid Trump states. South Carolina and Alaska are currently likely states. The state of Texas is a lean state right now for the president. For Joe Biden, we have quite a few lean states as well. North Carolina is a lean state. Florida is a lean state, as well as the state of Arizona. And then the state of Texas is a tilt state for Joe Biden. And Donald Trump will carry Iowa as well as Ohio with a tilt status. So you can see 188 electoral votes for the current president to 346 for Joe Biden and the state of Hawaii. So that gives him 350 electoral votes according to the Economist forecast. So right off the bat, a very good showing for the former vice president. As you can see, this is the Economist map right here. So safe states, very likely to likely, and then uncertain. But these states, Donald Trump 56% and then 58% in Ohio and Iowa respectively, and then in Georgia, Joe Biden has a 51% chance of flipping the state of Georgia. So currently Georgia is expected to go to the former vice president. And then next up, we have the 538 forecast. So this right here, this is their snake graph. There's no map on 538, and this is the best thing that we have. At 538 was a forecast that was 100% right in 2012 when they were able to correctly predict the entire map in 2012. So taking a look at the 538 map, Washington, Oregon, California, of course, solid. Colorado, New Mexico, and Nevada are all likely states. The state of Hawaii is also solid. Illinois is a solid state. Minnesota and Michigan are likely states. New Hampshire is a likely state. The 1st District of Maine is solid, while the at-large vote is likely. And then most of the Northeast, again, these are all going to be solid states in every single one of these forecasts. And then the state of Virginia right now is a likely state. And then for President Trump, you have most of his solid states as well, most of these states in the Great Plains. State of Montana is a likely state again, as well as Kansas, Missouri, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Indiana for the president. The Alaska at large, 1st and 3rd district vote, these are all solid for President Trump. Oklahoma, Arkansas are solid. Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, and then West Virginia are all solid for the president. And the state of South Carolina is lean right now, while Alaska is still a likely state. South Carolina, Alaska, states that went to President Trump by over 14% in 2016. South Carolina is now a lean state, and Alaska is just barely, just barely a likely state on this map. So 125 right now for President Trump. The state of Texas will join South Carolina in the lean column for President Trump, and the states of Iowa and Georgia are going to be the tilt states for the current president. While for Joe Biden, we have the lean states being Wisconsin, a lean state, along with the state of Pennsylvania as well as Arizona. 11 electoral votes, and the state of Florida. That's another lean state for the former vice president. And then North Carolina is a tilt state, as well as the state of Ohio. So basically the Rust Belt here again is basically all flipped back. The blue wall has been rebuilt. Ohio is also back into the Biden column with the Democratic Party. And then Iowa does remain a Republican state, along with the state of Indiana here in the Midwest. North Carolina will also flip. Georgia will hold for the president, while Florida and Arizona will all flip with lean margins. And then following this, once again, this is just a snake graph. This is what I took the information from, as 538 does not have an official map. So next is the JHK forecast. This is the JHK forecast map. They gave Joe Biden 86.6% chance of victory to President Trump with just a 13.4% chance of winning his re-election in November. So as you can see, according to the JHK forecast, the West Coast again all solid. Colorado and New Mexico solid as well. Nevada is likely. Hawaii is solid. All of the Rust Belt or the Blue Wall, this is all likely. And these were states that Clinton lost or won by a very small margin. Minnesota, Clinton won by 1.5%. These 3 states she lost. Now they are likely states for Joe Biden, as well as New Hampshire. Maine is solid. New Hampshire, as you can see, all of these northeastern states are all going to be solid once again. Virginia is a likely state on this map. And then for President Trump, we have Montana again, another likely state. A state that was solid for President Trump in 2016 is now likely according to every single classification. And then most of these middle states are all solid Republican. Kansas, Missouri are likely states. All of the South is actually solid on this forecast. South Carolina is actually a lean state on this map, so I'm going to fill this in right now. I'm going to fill in the solid states first, and then Indiana is likely. But South Carolina, Texas, and Alaska are all lean states on this map. So Alaska, South Carolina, and Texas are now all voting very similarly, and they are within a lean margin only for President Trump. And Illinois is also a solid Democratic state, and Florida, North Carolina, and Arizona are the lean states on this map. And then surprisingly, Joe Biden will carry the states of Georgia and Iowa, but not the state of Ohio, which I think is pretty surprising. So that's going to go into the tilt column for Donald Trump, actually. So this gives Joe Biden the entire blue wall, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, so flipping 3 states in the southeast. Arizona will also flip for the first time in over 2 decades. Colorado and New Mexico are safe, and basically this is a very, very good map for the former vice president. Honestly, this is probably my best case scenario for Joe Biden, except I would replace Ohio with Iowa. I think that Joe Biden has a much better chance of winning Ohio than the state of Iowa. So if these states were to flip, it would go Ohio first and then Iowa. But right now, I think that Joe Biden's best case scenario would be something like this, except some states, Iowa, Ohio, Georgia, you can give or take to the former vice president. And then lastly, we do have the forecast from the Our Progress forecast. This is the Our Progress map that I'm going to fill in right now. So all of the West Coast is all completely solid for Joe Biden. Colorado and New Mexico are also solid as well. Nevada is likely. Hawaii is, of course, solid. And we have all of the northeastern states here, which are solid every single time. New Hampshire is, of course, a likely state. The first district of Maine is solid. Maine at large is currently likely. And then these 2 districts we're going to classify later. But again, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, all likely states for Joe Biden. New York is a solid state. And that is basically it for the solid and likely states for the former vice president. We do have also the state of Illinois. For President Trump, Montana is likely, and then all these red states going red again. All Nebraska except for the 2nd district is all solid for President Trump. Kansas is solid on this map, but Missouri and Mississippi are not. Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, all solid. South Carolina and Alaska are likely states. Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Indiana, all solid. Now, this is what's surprising about this forecast, and I don't think that this is going to be accurate. So currently, the state of Arizona is lean, but Texas is a tilt Biden state. Georgia is a tilt Biden state. Florida is a tilt Biden state. And then North Carolina is also a tilt Biden state. And Virginia, I forgot to classify this earlier, but Virginia is a solid state for the former vice president, while the state of Ohio is currently in a tie, and then the state of Iowa is a tilt margin. So taking a look at this forecast, as you can see right here, the state of Ohio, as you can see, Trump plus 0.0%, so that is a tie. But I mean, I guess we could give it to President Trump to fill in this map, so I'm going to give it to him. That still gives Joe Biden 387 electoral votes, and then we also have these 2 districts right here, so that makes it even better for the former vice president. So that gives Joe Biden 389 electoral votes to President Trump with just 149. So this would be the most favorable map. Honestly, Texas is not going to flip before Iowa or Ohio or Georgia. So basically, I don't think this is realistic at all, but I think that some states, North Carolina, Florida, definitely are some pretty accurate classifications. This again is the current Our Progress Forecast map, and taking a look at all these maps. So economists, this forecast is the most favorable for President Trump. However, it still shows that Joe Biden would win 350 electoral votes, just 15 less than Barack Obama's 2008 landslide victory, and 350 electoral votes. This would be a landslide. He would be flipping the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, as well as the 2nd District of Maine. But really, Maine, Nebraska, these are all just one state, so really don't worry about that. But North Carolina would be a flip. That would be big. Georgia for the first time in 2 decades, or almost 3 decades at this point. North Carolina, first time in over a decade. Florida, first time in 8 years. So that would be big for Joe Biden. Flipping back, this typically Republican state, but does tend to vote for the Democratic Party once in a while. Arizona, first time in over 2 decades. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Biden would flip back into the Biden column. States that Trump was able to win for the first time for a Republican nominee in over 2 decades. So Trump did do very well in the Rust Belt, and definitely that did show that he was a very strong candidate in 2016. However, now at this point, he's no longer the candidate he was before. He is much less popular. I mean, he's not less popular. His favorability is actually higher than before, but that was just when a lot of people just, weren't used to the idea of him being the president, and now most Republicans have moved to favoring President Trump. So that's why his favorability is higher, but still it is much, much lower compared to Joe Biden. It's around 19 points worse than Joe Biden's favorability right now. Joe Biden plus around 6-7%. Donald Trump down at literally -12, -13% in terms of his nationwide favorability. So Joe Biden, 350 electoral votes. This is the worst case scenario out of these 4 forecasts. Next, the 538 forecast, 351 electoral votes. I actually think I filled this in wrong. Yeah, I totally forgot the 2 districts. So the 2nd district, that's going to be lean for Joe Biden, and then the 2nd district of Maine will be lean for Donald Trump. I don't know how I missed that, but sorry if I missed that and you guys noticed. So this would give Joe Biden 352 and then Donald Trump 186 electoral votes. So this would be another very good scenario for Joe Biden. This is basically the same map, except he would win the 2nd district of Nebraska, and then he would win Ohio instead of the state of Georgia. So very, very similar here on this map. I mean, honestly, I do think that if any state would have flipped, I do think it would be Georgia first and then Ohio. Honestly, these 2 states I think would be similar, but in my opinion, I do think Georgia would flip first just because it went to Trump by a smaller margin in 2016. But these 2 states definitely going to vote very similarly. Iowa as well, but Iowa I still think is going to be just a tiny bit, a little bit more to the right compared to Ohio and Georgia. Texas at this point, I think it's going to go to President Trump unless something drastic there happens. Joe Biden did lead in the latest poll out of these states, so we'll see how the race progresses there. But Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are both doing pretty well for the former vice president. And then taking a look at the JKK forecast right here, yes, I did fill those in. So this gave Joe Biden 356 electoral votes, and then President Trump just 182. And again, he would flip Georgia as well, but not Ohio. And surprisingly, he would actually flip the state of Iowa, which I think is pretty surprising. So I'm not I don't really agree with this forecast too much, but I do think that North Carolina, Florida are flips for Joe Biden. But Ohio, I think it would be Ohio first, then Iowa. And right now, I would put Ohio, Iowa, and Georgia into the Trump column by very, very narrow margins. But we'll see how this race progresses. At this point, if the race were to continue to go this way, if President Trump if there's nothing positive for the president that comes out in the next couple of weeks, I would put Georgia, Ohio, and Iowa possibly into the Till Biden column in my final election prediction. And then finally, we have the Our Progress Forecast, as we just filled in at the very end there. So Georgia would be a tilt state. This, I think the progression here is a little bit more accurate. So it would be Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Ohio, and then Iowa. But Texas, I don't know why Texas is in the Biden column. So in my opinion, the states would flip in the order of the battleground states. So basically, the states that Trump won, the Biden would flip this time around. I think it would be Michigan, followed by Wisconsin, followed by Pennsylvania, and then Arizona, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Ohio, Iowa, and then Texas. So I think that these states that Biden would flip, I think it would go in that order, just because I think that the Rust Belt would go first, followed by the Sun Belt states, then Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, and then these 2 other Midwestern states, and then lastly, we have the state of Texas. So that is all of the 2020 presidential election forecast as of right now. They're all showing some pretty good signs for the former vice president, so that's just very, very positive for Joe Biden again. basically everything at this point is going his way with the election just weeks away, and I will be updating my prediction very soon, just next Tuesday, as well as that we'll be updating our polling map very soon as well. I think that will be pretty interesting to take a look at, as Joe Biden has surged in so many states since the last time we took a look at the map, and honestly probably the best map for Joe Biden that we've seen in a very, very long time. So once again, this is the Economist Forecast, followed by the 538 Forecast, and then the JKK Forecast, and then finally we have here the Our Progress Forecast for the 2020 presidential election. And then join my Discord if you have not. If you don't forget to join that at the very top of the description below. Leave a like down below if you enjoyed this video, as well as that consider subscribing to my channel if you have not. Leave your thoughts in the comments below along with any suggestions for videos you'd like to see from me in the future, and I will see all of you guys in the next video.